Hi everybody, my name is Anthony and I'm one of the studio librarians here at the Sachem Public Library. Today we're going to do a quick video on making a light up mason jar fall sign. Okay, so in your kit from the studio, if you pre-registered for this class, you've already been in contact with the studio to pick up your kit, which will include the actual mason jar sign. You'll have a little set of fairy lights, and you'll also have a few little things like twine for hanging. Okay, first we're going to focus on the actual sign itself. So the first thing we're going to do before anything else is figure out how we're going to decorate it. Are we going to stain it? Are we going to paint it? Or are we going to leave it as is? So before we do anything to hang it, add any extra decoration, or add any lights to it, that's the first thing we got to figure out. So once you guys figure that out, have it painted, stained, or whatever you want to do, then you're going to come on back and I'll show you how to put lights in it. Okay, so now let's say this is, I'm going to leave mine as is, but let's say that this is decorated the way, as far as paint or stain, however you're going to go about it. Okay, and the next thing we're going to add is the fairy lights. So we're going to grab our strand. Your strand is going to look like this. We're going to unravel it nice and neat without keeping it tangled. And when that's all set, you should have a strand that kind of looks like this. Okay, and we'll try to keep it as straight as possible. One thing to note, your fairy light strand has a little tab. It does come with a battery, and it has this little tab to keep the fairy lights from coming on. So in this case, you can pull your tab, and then you can control your fairy lights to make sure they're working from this little switch right here. So in this case, you can flick it back and forth. You can see mine come on, and that's all we need to know for now. Okay, so now that we have our sign all decorated, I have my lights here. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to start with one of these kind of bottom right holes here. Okay, and we're going to take the end and we're going to come up through and we're going to pull it all the way through. You might have to just thread it a little bit with the lights. Just take your time. The lights will fit through. Sometimes if the wire gets a little bit tangled, it'll be harder to get through. So you're going to want to go all the way through. Okay, you're going to want to go all the way through until you have one of the little lights kind of pop halfway out to the next hole. Okay, then you can leave the rest because there's a little bit of a run here where there are no lights, so you can leave that hanging off the back. We'll secure that to the back of the sign later. So now that we have that, we're going to take the end again and we're going to thread it through. As you can see, my wire kind of wants to go all over the place, so just try to manage it while it's still this long. And keep pulling through. Okay, you just want to make it so that first light in the strand is kind of halfway between these two holes. And then if you want to, you can kind of curl this up a little bit so it doesn't pull back all the way. We can always secure that, like I said, later. So now we can move up to the next hole, and this time we're going to come from underneath. Okay, we're still checking the position of that first light, make sure it's in the middle. And there we go. And now we have our next light in the middle. Now, they don't all have to be perfectly in the middle, but if you start off with that way, it's a lot easier to get everything threaded through and lined up the way you want it. So it's pretty much a simple process going all the way around. And you can see sometimes it's going to want to tangle as you pull, so you're going to want to keep an eye on it so it doesn't. I'll show you one more coming through the back. And then we'll kind of skip along. But before we kind of speed up the video to show you how I do the rest of them, we're going to show you an issue that can happen when you're threading them. So in this case, the light here is a little bit offset. It's really close to the next hole. It's perfectly fine. It'll look great. But if you want to center it, or if by any chance this light is actually on the back of the board where you won't be able to see it once it's hanging up, you can easily fix that by turning it over, okay, and just giving it a little tiny twist on the back. You can press that twist back down. Now if you look back on the other side, it moved that light from all the way over here to all the way over there. So it's really helpful in making sure that all of the lights in your set are on the front of the sign and not on the back where you're not going to see it, or you'll get like a weird glow from the back. So that's basically all there is to that. So we'll speed up the video a little bit, but I'm basically going to go here, I'm going to go all the way around, and then when I get back to where I started, I'm going to hop in to the inner circle and I'm going to go all the way around. And then we'll come back once we have that all set. Alright, so now that you see how everything is strung through, just a couple of things to note. Your LED strand is going to be a little bit longer. I actually, when I mocked this up, cut it down a little bit, so you'll see it kind of perfectly fits, and I just run out that last hole. You can cut the LED strip. The only thing that you have to do when you cut it is make sure it's off. If it's on, when you cut it, when the scissors go through both, you'll create a short and it'll turn your lights out for a second. It's just not good for the lights. So just make sure your battery's off and you give it a good clean snip with a pair of scissors or cutters or pliers or anything like that. And if you want to be extra safe, you can take the two leads, you can kind of bend one back a little bit so it won't touch the other. You can bend these down. And then if you have any hot glue available, you can just kind of hot glue the ends on there. That way you know it won't come out and you know it'll never short, or you won't have any issues like that. Alright, so we got our sign, we have our lights. Now we're going to figure out a way to hang this. So included in your kit, you're going to have a small piece of twine or string. Okay, we're just going to cut off a little bit in my case, but you already have a small piece in there with your kit. Okay, and we're probably going to give you one that's a little longer than it needs to be, so you can adjust it to fit. So that was a little too much. I'm going to cut it down. And that should about do it. So probably going to set it up with these first two little areas of the mason jar where they pop out. I think I'm going to glue mine along there. Now probably the easiest thing to do this with is hot glue, but if you're not comfortable with hot glue or don't have one, you can use any adhesive that you have around. You're just going to have to be a little patient while it dries. So in this case, I'm just going to use just a little E6000, just what I had around. And I'm going to put a little over the string. It's not a very heavy sign, so I'm not going to go crazy. The only thing I would definitely recommend not doing is stapling it, because if you try to staple the string to it, like a lot of the signs you'll see in the stores and things like that, this material is thin and the staple will go right through it. So all I did in this case is, because I just had this type of glue, is kind of create a little blob, kind of push the string down in there and put a little more of a blob over top. So once that all sets up, it's not going anywhere. Alright everyone, here is a picture of our finished project. I want to thank you all for watching. Just to remind everyone, if you have ideas like this that you want to make come to life, feel free to contact the studio and ask about our engraving, poster printing, and 3D printing service.